Yes, as normal, we are going to start our meeting, and we are going to have our brother Elijah helping us with a prayer, and he can continue with his report. Yes, Elijah Nyabuti, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, you can pray for us.
I play in Kiswahili.
Yes, in Kiswahili.
Yeah, let's pray. Mungu Baba, tuacha mbele zako jioni hii ya leo, tutakapoenda kufanya mkutano wetu wa siku ya leo. Baba, uwe nasi katika jina safi Bwana Yesu. Amen.
Yes, amen. Thank you very much, Elijah. Yes, you can present your report. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, today, my name is Elijah Nyabuti once again. Today, I'm going to talk about my country, Kenya. Kenya is a country in East Africa with a coastline on Indian Ocean. It encompasses savanna lakelands and dramatic Great Rift Valley and mountain highlands. It's also a home to wildlife like lion, elephant, and rhinos. From Nairobi, the capital city, you can visit Masai Mara Reserve, known for its annual wild-beast migration, and Amboseli National Park, offering view of Tanzania's Mount Kilimanjaro. What are the facts about Kenya? Kenya has 50 national parks and reserves. It also has a Great Rift Valley, which was formed millions of years ago. There are over 60 languages spoken in Kenya. The first woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize was from Kenya, and she was called Professor Wangari Maathai. Mount Kenya is the second highest mountain in Africa. Kenya national animal is the East African lion. Kenya offers some of the finest scenery in East Africa, including Samburu National Park, the spectacular setting for the film Born Free. We have also Amboseli National Park, which is 160 miles from Nairobi City, offering iconic safaris and cultural encounters with the local Maasai tribes people in the region, teeming with elephants, zebra, giraffe, plus pelican, flamingos, and ostrich. You can spend days exploring the bird life paradise of Meru National Park, all the mountain peaks and extinct volcanoes of the Tsavo National Park. There is a Malindi Marine National Park Reserve, its lagoon and coral garden inviting you to aquatic adventure to see turtles and dolphins. The two official languages are English and Kiswahili. However, most Kenyans speak the third language commonly known as mother tongue. We have the Bantu-speaking tribes, which is divided into 3. We have the coastal Bantu tribes, which are the Kikuyu, Akamba, Meru, Embu, Daraka, and Mbere. We have the Western Bantu.
You have 30 seconds.
Yes. We have the Nilotic-speaking tribes. We have the River Lake Nilote, Eastern Cushites, Southern Cushites. As I conclude, I'm humbled to welcome you all to our beautiful land, Kenya, as we champion the movement. Let's always fight racism and xenophobia. Let's all protect our brothers and sisters from any kind of discrimination by recommending safe places for Black people in I Love Black People Safe Places app, considering our 8 essential categories. My name is Elijah Nyabuti from Kenya. I am because we are.
Yes, thank you very much, Elijah Nyambuti from Kenya. I am because we are. Up next, we are going to have Emmanuel Muke from Zambia. Emmanuel, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You have 3 minutes to present your report.
Okay. Thank you very much. I love Black people. I love who you are. Yeah. So as a Pan-African movement of Africa, this is a movement which was crystallized in 1960 during the independence movement of several African nations. And this is the time when Europeans were, they ended their imperialism, and the nation started seeking for ideology of the government and their leadership. Yeah, as Pan-Africanism, sorry, was attempted to create senses of brotherhood and collaborations among all people and of Africa. Yeah, and those people who live outside Africa. Yeah, as Pan-Africanism, we are in a worldwide, and this movement is aimed to encourage and strengthen bonds of solidarity between all the ideologies and all the diplomats. Yeah. So as people of Africa, our ancestral and us, we have a common goal, which is to defend our Black people. Yeah. So as the movement, we are here to extend and to do more and support each other amongst ourselves and those people who stays out of the nation or out of Africa, those people like people who are in America but they are Blacks, people who are in other countries but they are Blacks. Yeah, we are there to defend them. Yeah. So as I love Black, sorry, just a minute. Yeah, sorry, just a minute. I lost my signal.
Yes, you have 30 seconds left to wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, as we continue with our advocacy, we need to make sure we do things which are going to develop ourselves and encourage one another, encourage each and everyone as a brother. Let's unite together with our own. Let's stand and defend the brotherhood. We are one Africa. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Manuel Muke. I am because you are. Up next, we are going to have our sister Emma Heavenly from South Africa. Sister Emma, you can unmute yourself. Yes, sorry, sister, you are on mute. You can unmute yourself. Yes, we can't hear you. You can unmute yourself. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Anita Grace from South Sudan. I'm here to represent South Sudan. The Republic of South Sudan is the youngest nation in Africa. It gained its independence on July 9, 2011, led by President Salva Kiir Mayardit. South Sudan have the most beautiful, intelligent people with dark skin and tall. South Sudan is one of the diverse countries in Africa. It's home to over 60 different major ethnic groups. The most interesting thing in South Sudan has an abundance of wildlife, including giraffes, buffaloes, lions, elephants, and antelopes. Boma National Park is the home to one of the world's great wild animals migrants, where an estimate of 1.3 million buffaloes move across the landscape in search of good grazing. South Sudan has a friendly weather condition and fertile soil in most states. South Sudan has an abundant resources like the Nile River, petroleum, ammonium, iron ore, and gold as the country's major resources. The major products in South Sudan are crude petroleum in about 700 million, gold 111 million. It exports to China, Uganda, United Arab, Italy. This proves beyond doubt that South Sudan is one of the most richest countries in South Sudan with the most beautiful animals. South Sudan has able leaders with intelligent, great sense of Africanism. They always identify themselves as true sons of Africa. In conclusion, as an African and as Pan-African activist, I would conclude by one of this African speaker, Robert Magufuli. He stated, African countries must revert to what it was before the imperials divided it. These are artificial division which we are in our Pan-African concept will seek to remove. Thank you so much. I am because we are. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, our sister Anita Grace from South Sudan. I am because we are. Up next, we're going to have our brother Amazing Grace from Malawi. Is Amazing Grace, can you hear us?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, you have 3 minutes to present your report.
Okay, thank you. Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Amazing Grace from Malawi. I just have to go through what is happening in Malawi so that you our family can know. Malawi actually is passing through tough time as we have Cyclone Freddy and Korea. Cyclone Freddy hit us on 16 March 2023, and cholera outbreak broke on 13 February 2023. In fact, cholera has claimed 1,400 over such number lives, and the 45,000 cases have been reported. Actually, the cyclone Freddy has displaced so many families and the plundering crops. As such, Malawi is projected to face food insecurity in the coming season. But during this period, we are not alone, as some countries, our surrounding neighbors, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, they have assisted us with relief and they are continuing doing so. That has at least lifted the burden on us, and this is the spirit of Black, of Pan-Africanism, Black togetherness, family. We extend our thanks, a hand of thanks to our friends. As you know, we are going through qualifiers to work with the Cup of Nations, and Malawi was just close to Egypt with an expatriate coach from Romania at the helm. And so far, after this loss, Malawians are looking for a local coach, and as we have lost trust in the expatriate coach. This is a very good, interesting thing, because we have to show faith in ourselves that we can do almost everything. Having presented on the same last Saturday, I think there is not much for today to present for Malawi. Over to you, Yvonne. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Amazing Grace from Malawi. Yes, I am because we are. Up next, we're going to have our brother Ibrahim Saidu from Sierra Leone. Yes, brother Saidu, can you hear us? Yes, you can unmute yourself. Okay, I think he's having some issues with network. We are going to continue with our brother English Nelson from Sierra Leone. English Nelson, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, you
Yeah.
have.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. You have 3 minutes to
Yeah.
present your
I'm
report.
English Nelson A.F. Nicholson from Sierra Leone. And then Sierra Leone is a country named by the Portuguese called Sierra da Loa, which means the Lion Mountain. But we later colonized by the British people, colonial masters, and they call it Sierra Leone, which means also the Lion Mountain. And Sierra Leone bordered on the east and the south of Sierra Leone bordered with the Republic of Liberia, and the north and the west bordered with the Republic of French Guinea. And Sierra Leone is a tropical country, has 2 main seasons, the wet season and the dry season, or in better words, raining season. And Sierra Leone has 17 ethnic groups. We have Imnis, Mende, Limba, Fula, Yolonka, Vai, Kuru, Creole, to name but few. And then the official language of Sierra Leone is English, and the Creole is widely spoken. And the capital city is called Freetown, and Freetown was named Freetown after the repatriation of the slaves from Europe and America. And when they get back to Africa, this is the place they gather together and say, here, it should be called Freetown because we are back home and it represents freedom. And Sierra Leone, blessed with a lot of natural resources. There we have diamond, gold, bauxite, rutile, iron ore, zinc, titanium, to name but few. And it's a tropical country with the friendly weather that we have in Sierra Leone. And our flag is green, white, and blue. And we have higher mountains, lowlands, and valley. And we located in the west coast of Africa. And we are the 3rd largest population in the 5 English-speaking countries in West Africa. And then I will end up my presentation with a quote from Kwame Nkrumah, who said, heterogeneity has no place in Africa. Homogeneity is the way. These are the words of Kwame, to be exact. And I am because we are.
Yes, thank you very much, English Nelson from Sierra Leone. I am because we are. Up next, we're going to have Brother Williams Bryant from Sierra Leone. Yes, Williams, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself. Sorry, he's from Malawi.
Hello, brothers and sisters.
Yes, welcome. You have 3 minutes to present your report.
Yeah, I've got no much to say, as my brother Amazing Grace has already said some. All I can do right now is try to give a summary of what has been happening from 26 March to 31 March. We have been involved in a lot of activities in Malawi. Malawi is alert against the all racial activity and xenophobia attacks against Malawian immigrants. We are putting much effort on that. And we here, we are, during the past week, we were encouraged also to share and download the that app, I Love Black People app, so that we should be able to communicate with others when one is in danger easily. We were also asked to recommend a safe place, whether it is school, in any safe place business activity or whatever, so that others should be able to visit some of these places where they can be treated with respected dignity. Yeah, we were also asked to encourage other relatives, our families, relatives and friends to publicize our Love Black People movement, so that it should go as far as possible, so that Africa should be well aware of this movement. The community members also and ambassadors were all asked to prepare and write and submit these weekly reports, which we did. As my friend already said, that we've been hit with tropical cyclone Freddy. This Freddy has devastated Malawi. Almost half of Malawi, as our president has been saying, has been damaged. We almost, as of now, we have got almost 511 deaths. And we have got almost 1,724,000 injuries.
Yes, you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Yeah, we have also 537 people still missing. So all this, we are still, our country and all those neighboring countries who are helping us with relief, they are working tirelessly to make sure that at least we be safe again as we were before. With this, I don't have much to say. I am because we are. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I am because we are. Up next, we're going to have Shahid Kasim from Ghana. Yes, Shahid Kasim, can you hear us?
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon, brethren, on this novel platform. Let me first of all extend my greetings to all my brothers in Africa, especially the host, Madame Dishomi Yvonne. It's a pleasure once again to speak on behalf of Ghana on this platform. In 1957, the then Ghana, called Gold Coast, became the first sub-Saharan colony to become an independent nation under President Kwame Nkrumah, who had led the fight for independence. Nkrumah was a Pan-African nationalist who saw Ghana's independence as crucial for the entire continent of Africa. As the Gold Coast officially gained independence, Nkrumah declared the independence of Ghana up to total liberation of the African continent.
Yes, hello. Shahid, can you hear us?
And that new Africa of many one affairs encouraged by Ghana's example, more follows and declare independence over the next decade. Following independence, the country was renamed Ghana, as it was believed that many of the new nation's inhabitants were descendants from the Soninke people who live in the ancient empire of Ghana. Ghana's flag incorporates the Pan-African colors of red, yellow, green, and black to represent political unity between all those who live in Africa, and feature the Black Star as a symbol of Ghana's new freedom and hope. The currency was also changed when the British West African pound to Ghana cedi. The word cedi is Akan. Akan is the largest ethnic group in Ghana. So the word cedi is a Akan word for cowrie shell. And these shells were used as currency until 1901. Cowrie shells aren't native to Ghana's water, but were introduced as a form of currency in West Africa by traders from Arabia in the 1800s. And this is what we say, the Arabs were the first civilized country to enslave, Africans, but we seldom say it later. And most of our, what's the name, historians don't actually let us know about this. Around the 1800s, Arabs came to Ghana here and do business with us.
30 seconds to wrap up.
Yeah. Today, some of Ghana's currency still bears an image of cowrie shell, democratic state. After independence, Ghana government were plagued by corruption, coups, and military takeover. For many years, Ghana was effectively a one-party state until in 1981, when Jerry Rawlings vowed to put a stop to it. In 1982, Ghana, under Rawlings, formed a new constitution. And from there, Ghana is blessed to have successive governments with a coup, and it's relatively a peaceful country. Today, our president is His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Thank you very much once again. I am because you are.
Yes, thank you very much, Shahid Kasim from Ghana. I am because we are. Up next, we're going to have our brother Nicodemus Cooper from Botswana. Yes, Nicodemus, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you have 3 minutes to present your report.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. Let me start by saying I am because we are. I'll start with that because most of my predecessors have been saying it on the last chapter. Yes, my name is Nicodemus Cooper from Botswana, and I am from a district called Kalahari district in a small village. Some refer to it as the Kalahari. So I'm here to introduce you to Botswana because basically there isn't much you can say in 3 minutes. And Botswana is formed by different tribes, mostly Tswana speaking, and we have 2 official languages, Setswana and English. Botswana is also a landlocked country. It shares the border with South Africa, Namibia, Zambia, Zimbabwe. So basically, when you share borders with other countries or neighboring countries, that gets to show you that we have shared history and possibility of blood relations. We are a country of 2.3 million in population. That is based in a recent statistics in 2020. And we are a multi-party state, but of course, the party that is in power has been in power since 1966. So the opposition hasn't been that lucky to take power, hopefully in the future. And Botswana, as a small country, is doing very well economically, as it is classified as one of the developing countries. A small population, but very ambitious economic appetite. And is doing well in the beef industry. We've got a Botswana Beef Commission, Meat Commission rather, which sells beef to the whole world. Botswana is also known for its diamonds, doing very well in diamonds, and we are actually making a turnaround and doing well in agriculture as of recent years. Speaking of...
You have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Oh yes. Speaking of SADC, being Southern Africa, we have the leverage of having the headquarters for SADC in Botswana. And coincidentally, the SADC Secretariat is a citizen of Botswana. And I want to close off by saying or quoting a famous quote from our first president, Sir Ian Khama. And he said that a nation without culture is a lost nation. So we are one in our different diversity. I am because we are. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I am because we are. That was our brother Nicodemus Cooper from Botswana. Up next, we're going to have our brother Bernard Oguta from Kenya. Yes, Bernard, can you hear us? Hello, Bernard, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hear you. Yes, I think our brother had some issue with the mic. We are going to have our brother Jobe from the Gambia. Yes, Ali Jobe, can you unmute yourself? Yes, Ali Jobe.
Yes, greetings to you all.
Yes.
It's a pleasure for joining you again.
Yes,
I am deeply sorry for the reconnecting because network here is not that much good today. So, but I believe you can hear me out loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes to present your report.
Yes, thanks again for allowing me to join my colleagues from different African countries to discuss about our reports. Earlier today, as you all have seen on the team, why do they call Gambia as a smiling coast of Africa? I think I will take you through about the synopsis of the word or the team, the smiling coast of Africa. Of course, if any of you are lucky to travel around the Gambia, you will basically realize that it is a country with a population of less than 3 million. And again, the country is endowed with river side, and then we have a lot of tourism attractive place. The Gambia is a fantastic all year round destination. The sun and sea are certainly tempting. People are tempted with the beautiful sun and beaches in our country here. You can enjoy yourself and you can enjoy numerous of accommodations opening during holidays in the Gambia, whether it is five-star luxury hotels, understand, and then again you'll be able to have chance to mingle with the local family members. You can also go around the lodges. We have a lodges where we have a lot of birds that are very, very attractive. We have wild animals in the country here. So again, we cannot oversight what one can actually find out when it comes to Gambia. And the one thing for sure or is for certain is Gambia is a traditional, very tolerant of all religions, regardless of your religious, your belief, your tribe. And then the country is obviously predominantly Muslims. Almost we have 96 to 98% of Muslims population practicing basic um, tenets of Islamic principles. And again, Gambia is pride itself and its broad-minded accommodations and completions. So notwithstanding, this is what I have for you today. We cannot overstate anything about Gambia, but it is a country among West African countries which are endowed with the natural resources. And then I believe that togetherly, if we protect our environment and again our resources, we'll be able to sustain ourselves. And by extension, we will be able to promote free trade between African countries, because that is something that we are yearning for us to break the barriers between African countries in order for good and service to be moved like the way we want it to be. And of course, to extend our capacity in order to establish industries that will be feed by our own raw materials in African countries. When we look at countries like Nigeria, Gambia, Congo, we are endowed with natural resources. And again, we have series of natural minerals which can be utilized, can be used also for we the Africans to sustain ourselves as a country. We want food sufficiently.
Yes, you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
All right, thank you. So just to cut it short, I am overwhelmed to be interacting with colleagues from different countries. This is Ali Job from Gambia. And yesterday we had a very, very fruitful discussion, which I'm looking forward to expand this Pan-African Union or movement to our various environment, our various school of thoughts. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure for being here with you, and I'm grateful to see you around. Thank you.
I am because we are. Thank you very much. We are going to have our last speaker, Bernard Oguta. Can you hear us? Bernard, we can't hear you.
Hello, hello.
Yes, Bernard.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes to present your report.
Okay. My name is Bernard Oguta from Kenya, East Africa. One of the beneficiaries of Pan-Africanism from our forefathers, that is rights of Sylvester and the boys, and then they handed over to our Africanists like rights of Kwame Nkrumah. Okay, to start with, I can say that Kenya as a country has benefited a lot because of Pan-Africanism, because immediately after run gaining independence, that was 1957. It took like 5-7 years for Kenya to gain independence, which means that the brothers who started the movement of Pan-Africanism had a sense, and so it is right for their brothers and neighbors gain independence also. That's when our country, Kenya, got independence in 1963. From there, they teamed up and Kenya gained the road. There were some 2, 3, 4 challenges which were on, but the impact was positive. As I can say, currently our country Kenya has some animosities that is the spirit of us from the last general elections. But we pray hard, and you as our brothers who are within the African continental bloc, pray for us, give out some insights which can make our leaders come into consensus which can make our country move forward. Because we don't want our country to sink back, because as a movement, we need development. We need states to be developed. We need people to be developed. We as the BRAC movement to be developed. So, as I said, Kenya has benefited a lot because you can see Kenya is.
Yes, you have 30 seconds to wrap it.
Yes, Kenya is a member state of the IGAD, a member state of the NEBAD, and a strong supporter of the EAC. Recently, we accommodated the Democratic Republic of Congo to one of our partners. So I don't see the need of being Americanized or segmented. Being one, become strong. To finish with, I will finish with the slogan, I am because we are, because once we are united, we are strong, and we can defend ourselves and we can develop ourselves. Thank you for the time.
Yes, thank you very much. I am because we are. Thank you for all the speakers for the wonderful reports. We are going to start the Pan-African healthcare class with Nana Akua. And if you would like to receive a shout out from her, you can turn on the camera. She likes watching the black beautiful faces. Let's welcome Nana.
Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you. I see Heavenly Emma and El Saint and Shadrach and Amazing Grace Topeka. Is it Tarnu? I'm sorry if I'm messing up any of your names, but thank you all for joining us today. So today we are going to continue with our healthcare lessons, and today we're talking about herbs. Maybe we'll get a chance to get into herbs and homeopathics, but we will also switch up a little bit from the packet. If you have the packet or if you're in one of the current WhatsApp classes, you may have certain information, but I wanted to share a different, it's probably not good, but let me try to pull up, I don't want to talk. I created a handout, and instead of trying to pull up different ones, I really want to use this particular one if I'm able to. So let's see if this works. Share that, and then I click on that. Are you able to see, Yvonne, a figure? No.
No.
You're just still able to see my list. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
You are sharing. That is not what I want to share. What is in that? Okay. So I want to talk just not in general about herbs. I want to talk about what different herbs do for different parts of the body. And so the handout that I'm trying to get pulled up here will do just that, if I can get that. That's not. So let's just talk a little bit in general then about herbs. So we know that herbs are natural plants. Some people, usually they're plants, and usually they're categories of either plants, shrubs, or trees that we usually use for medicinal purposes. And so we know that we may use different parts of the plant. We may use the flower, we may use the leaves, we may use the stems, we may use the root. If we are talking about a more shrub or tree-like plant, then we know there may be additional parts like the bark or parts of the branches. But usually we're still talking about leaves and flowers, stems and roots for most plants that we are in fact using for healing purposes. We know that there are many different ways in which to use herbs. We may use them topically in a compress or a paste or bolus, or oh, I'm losing the word. It'll come back after I move on, I'm sure. But we may use it in powder form to make like a body powder. We may use it internally, of course, as a means to replace like body powder or baby powder that we buy. We may use it internally. Oh, I'm sorry, but that was about the external. Internally, of course, we may use it in tea form. We may use it in the form of capsules, tinctures, for health and beauty products, we may have herbs in our lotion, our shampoo, our skin creams, ointments, salves, things of that nature. And so we may also use it in liniment form for aches and pains. So there's so many uses for that. In our bath, we may make a tea or an infusion as we are making a tea to drink, and we add that entire combination to our bath water and soak to absorb the benefits of the tea. I mean, yeah, so the whole body response of the tea in bath form. So there are many uses for herbs. We know that in general, herbs have been used for thousands of years. There are some instances where there are contraindications. Usually this is if a person is on certain types of prescriptions. So there may be cause to seek advice, especially if you are taking some sort of prescription medications that may do a certain thing in the body, and you want to make sure that the herbs are not going to impact that. The handout that is in the WhatsApp group that you can request from me and I email to you will also give some other safety tips. We'll give some other indications as to how to take different herbal remedies for adult size people and then for children. So there are a lot of information handouts that are in the packet that you can get if you do not have it already. But what I wanted to start doing was give a little more direction as to how herbs help different parts of the body or the various categories of herbs. So there may be herbs that we usually talk about in the last two classes of the 8-week cycle, right? Where we talk about the paths of elimination, and we talk about herbs for the colon and for the kidneys and for the liver and for the skin and for the lungs. The handout that I want to go over today will talk about other parts of the body. And then I also wanted to discuss other categories of herbs. So there might be herbs that are considered cancer herbs, or herbs that are good for fighting off infections, so antibiotic herbs. So there are a number of categories that make it a little easier to learn how to use herbs, what categories you may put herbs in, so that you can easily say, oh yeah, that's a herb that's good for cancer, or that's an herb that is good for diabetes. So, you know, it's just a matter of learning what herbs you can kind of easily identify and easily use in order to increase your knowledge and expand kind of what you're doing and how you're using things and that sort of thing. And I wish it were easier for me to pull up this information that I am trying to share. And it's all over my screen. It is just not, I cannot translate that into your screen. So I guess you'll just have to.
Maybe can you open the document first before sharing your screen?
Yeah, I did. Thought I did. Yeah, or maybe I didn't. There you go. Right? Is that what I'm sharing? You see alternative. Yeah, you do see it.
Yes.
It pop up in the box. See how smart you are, Yvonne, and how, oh Lordy, what did I do now? I took it off of my screen just. Oh goodness. So I'm sure that I keep too much on my screen. I paused. Wait, what do you see?
You can stop sharing your screen and share it again.
And now it's not there. Shouldn't be this hard. Every week we go through this though, right? I'm gonna get it one day. I'm usually smart in some categories. Okay. I think you see it.
Yes, we can see it.
So, some herbs that are good for cancer. Some of these you may be familiar with, some you may not, but cloves, and I'm trying to just make it a little bigger so that you can easily see it. So now I don't think you can see all of the top row, but cloves. These are some of the, of course, common spices that we may use to season our food, but we know that this has anti-cancer properties and can be helpful. Now, I think we've talked about clove before, but we also know it's probably most commonly used for tooth and gum pain. But because of that, and the reason it's used for that, it does have antiseptic and antispasmodic properties as well. Cinnamon, another common spice, and I think all of these are really what we would call kind of culinary types of yeah, let me scoot that down a little bit. More so culinary herbs, but also have cancer fighting properties. Cinnamon, allspice, saffron, one of the most expensive spices or herbs in the world. Fennel, oregano, cumin, garlic, mustard, rosemary, mint, turmeric, basil, ginger, red pepper, black pepper. All of these are really good and I would say to add to your cancer fighting list. There are many others that I would put on that list as well. You have, let's see if this, are you seeing a difference picture now?
No, it's still the same.
Yeah, it's because I'm doing too much. I'm thinking I got it, but I don't have it. Okay, well. But let's add to that list red clover, aloe, dill, parsley, green tea. So now we're kind of going out of what we would just typically call spices, right? But also to that list, I would add a 4-herb combination, or Essiac is a name that has been called after the nurse from Canada that kind of put the formula together and kind of made it popular. But if you are looking to add to your cancer fighting list, I would also add slippery elm, turkey rhubarb, burdock root, and sheep sorrel. And this is probably a situation where it would be easier for me to probably type it in the chat. I would also add cat's claw, and there are a couple more that it's not coming to my mind right now, but I feel like it's good. You're gonna get 4 different, you're gonna get 4 different messages. Burdock root, and sheep sorrel. Yes, I'm sure you'll be saying, what was that again? So these are just some herbs to add to that list of, okay, these are herbs that are known for fighting off cancer. Now maybe I can get my other handout. Open it, then share. Oh Lord, that's something altogether different. Hmm. Yeah, it didn't work. It's not on there though, is it? No, it's not. Okay. Well, I'm going to look at it and I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to. So there are other herbs that are good for different parts of the body. And most people may not really think of these, but let's talk about herbs that are good for the brain. Ginkgo biloba, ginseng, lion's mane, ashwagandha, cat's claw, I just mentioned that a moment ago, gutta cola, turmeric we've mentioned, and we usually do mention in this class under a couple of things, but these are all good for the brain. Teeth. There are definitely herbs that are also good for the teeth. And generally this would apply to the mouth in general, and then gums and teeth. But garlic, thyme, cinnamon bark, lavender, eucalyptus, licorice root or licorice stick, turmeric, peppermint, activated charcoal. Also, if we go down to bones, just so you'll know what herbs strengthen the bones, we have boswellia, chamomile, lemongrass, turmeric or turmeric curcumin, horsetail, nettle, red clover, dandelion, and gutta cola. We know that what cleanses the liver cleanses the blood. So we know that blood cleansing herbs or blood herbs are burdock, cleavers, echinacea, nettle, Oregon grape, sarsaparilla, dandelion, marshmallow root, red clover. If we're talking about the muscles and we want to figure or know what herbs are good for the muscles, that would be echinacea, guarana, ashwagandha, saffron, and cinnamon. And we will discuss skin, colon, kidneys, lungs, I'm sure I missed one, kidney, skin, liver, lungs, colon, in our next section. But let me just also share herbs that are considered to be antibiotic herbs. So these are herbs that would help fight off infection. So they'll have antibacterial, but usually they'll also have antiviral, antifungal, antiparasitic properties also, even though those are all other categories. But specifically fighting off infection, healing wounds topically, healing infections internally. These are herbs like rosemary, cinnamon, savory, basil, mint, oregano, lavender, neem, comfrey, chamomile. Another two interesting categories that I wanted to point out today, and I wish you could see it, my apologies, but herbs for diabetes and herbs for hypertension. So herbs for diabetes are typically cinnamon, cloves, rosemary, oregano, sage, curry leaves, garlic, ginger, turmeric, marjoram, and cayenne. Cinnamon, cloves, rosemary, oregano, sage, curry leaves, garlic, ginger, turmeric, cayenne, and marjoram. I know you may not be getting all of these, but what I can do, which I do know how to do, is email this. But you know what? I created this handout that I'm reading. I'll send you this information. It may not be this exact handout, but I actually created this handout that I wish you could see for a book that I'm working on. Because you find images on the internet, you cannot use these people's images, so you have to create your own handouts and flyers if you're going to then put it someplace. So herbs for hypertension: basil, parsley, celery, cat's claw, garlic, thyme, cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, hawthorn, juniper berry. Herbs for hypertension: basil, parsley, celery, cat's claw, garlic, thyme, cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, hawthorn, and juniper berry. So that is what I wanted to point out today. Homeopathics, let me just say a word about homeopathics. We know that homeopathics are plant-based herbs as well. We know that these are natural occurring substances that are also used to heal the body, physical issues, some mental or psychiatric issues as well, but usually various health conditions, homeopathic remedies is used. But we know the difference between the two is that homeopathics may be plant-based, it may be mineral-based, and in some cases, it may be from animal or insect parts. Most are botanical or plant-based form. And we know that how homeopathics is made or derived is also a little different in terms of how you take it. You're not typically taking homeopathics by swallowing. You are doing it sublingually, which means you are letting the pellets or tablets or even the liquid absorb into the body through the mucous membranes in your mouth. So we know that you are allowing it to absorb into the body sublingually. And so we know that there are hundreds of homeopathic remedies. We know that we take it sublingually. We know that it's very fast acting because it does not have to be digested, where you are swallowing and having it to go through your digestive system. It gets a more direct absorption into the bloodstream because you're taking it sublingually. And so next week we can focus on some of the homeopathic remedies. And it actually I was just reminded, there are a lot of homeopathics that are used in first aid kits, because I think initially I was just saying or thinking of all of the internal uses, but there are a lot of good homeopathic remedies that are used if you cut yourself, or if there's a rash, or if there is some abrasion or injury topically. So yes, there are a lot of topical uses. You'll find homeopathic creams and ointments that you may use that may have, say, arnica in it, that will help with any like pain, injury, strains. You twist or turn your ankle or knee or something of that nature. So a lot of creams like that exist. There are even a lot of topicals. There's a remedy called Rust Tox if you come in contact with poison ivy, right? So there are soaps and creams that help heal the rash, right, from the poison ivy, and of course soothe the itching and irritation from it as well. So we'll get a little bit more into homeopathics next week. We'll also discuss essential oils. We know that these are oils that are extracted from the flowering parts of various plants. And I always like to share beyond the typical of lavender and peppermint, even though peppermint is my favorite, right? But we'll talk more about the not so popular or not so familiar essential oils like helichrysum and neroli and medicinal uses of like sandalwood and frankincense and myrrh and things that we may use just because of the aroma and we love the smell, but we know that a lot of them will have various healing properties. So we'll discuss those things next week. And I don't know if Dr. Wright is on yet, but I think I have reached my time. Yvonne?
Yes, but she didn't join yet. She's
So-
ready now.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little late myself, but yeah, so then please again join us next week and we'll continue talking about other natural healing modalities like the essential oils and the homeopathic. So thanks for joining and I bid you good health and peace.
Yes, thank you very much, Nana Akua, for the wonderful lecture. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Up next, we are going to have Dr. Wright and me for the Pan-African History course. Dr. Wright, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. 1 second, let me get my camera. So welcome everyone to the Pan-African History and Organizing course. So today I'm going to stay on schedule. I just got logged in. So I saw the comments and that's great. I'm glad people are reading the text. Thank you for the comments regarding the text. So I just want to really quick jump in. Let's jump in. And so the chapter you read is from this book. And you don't have to buy this book because I'm giving you the readings that we are doing in this book via PDF, right? So it's only 2 chapters that we cover in this book. And this past week, you all read the Booker T. Washington, Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanist. And the reason why I had you read that chapter is because of the simple fact that it recalls the history of Pan-Africanism, right? So Kwame Ture, he gave you a definition and a brief history. This pretty much gave you the nuances and specifics and got into the relationships of the individuals who were proponents of Pan-Africanism. And as you can see, they're from all over the world, really. Page 16, and I'll actually share it with those of you who might not officially be in the course, but I think most of you are. I will share it from the WhatsApp group, but you know, page 16 gives you a tour sort of the African diaspora and those who made contributions to Pan-Africanism on a large scale, namely, of course, Henry Sylvester Williams and others. And that was the point, to say that this was a collective effort on the part of the African people at the time, and that essentially, let's see, okay. Yeah, this was a collective effort on the part of African people at the time. And you can sort of map all the places where contributions came from, you know. So on page 16, it said, prior to the first Pan-African Conference, 19th and early 20th century Pan-Africanists in the US was espoused and practiced by individuals like Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, Martin Delaney, Edward Blyden, Henry Highland Garnett, and Alexander Crummell, right? But as early as 1829, David Walker's appeal reflected on the history of African civilization and made a connection between those in Africa and Africans scattered abroad. So in other words, he was, you know, David Walker's appeal, which is like 1829. You have someone like David Walker who, you know, survived slavery, but still lived in a slave society, and is talking about the connection between African people on the continent and African people in the diaspora. And he's quite aware, as you can see, that there is an existing connection he is aware of the large scale in which, white supremacy and culture and racism and the transatlantic slave trade has impacted African people. So he knows it's not like African people who are enslaved in America are unaware of the fact that their origins are in Africa. We are as diverse when we get here as we are on the African continent. So when people talk about, African people in America not understanding ethnicity and ethnic differences, I always like to ask, what do you think we were upon arrival? Right? We had those ethnicities. What has happened here is similar to what is happening in the world at large for us, which is that what happened here is we had a common experience, a common traumatic experience that sort of amalgamated us or blended us, right? And, via blood and common experience. So in a way, it's one of the worst things that has happened in the history of humanity, meaning the enslavement, the transatlantic slave trade, because you're talking about perpetual slavery that the world has never seen before. Sorry, guys. I have my cats are all over the place. So they're like, cat here on my face just now. Anyway, so sorry. So we had a common trauma, common experience that bound us together, right? And how do people construct culture? Construct culture through history, through common experiences, so on and so forth. And, one of the things I like to use as an example that I know to be factual is that on most plantations, you would find that, yes, grow what you eat for sure. On most plantations, you will find that African people who were enslaved recreated familial relations. So in other words, they were not blood related, but on every plantation, in the slave quarters, you would have, someone who was in the role of the grandfather, the elder, someone who's in the role of the grandmother, someone whose role of as a mother, as a father, as an auntie, and sometimes we were blood related, but very often we recreated the extended family formation. And why? Because family is the first line of organization. It's the first organization you belong to, your family unit. And for African people on the continent and elsewhere, even here in the Americas, we've always had the extended family formation. So you may have a mother and father, but then you have a grandmother, grandfather, auntie, uncle, and very often historically up until, as late as the 1960s, you can find us living together in this extended family formation. One of the things that COVID exposed about African people, Black people in America, is that we're still living in multi-generational households, right? Meaning 3 generations in one household very often. And this is not unusual, but listen, even as non-culturally African as Obama and his family are, interestingly enough, they still were in the extended family formation for the first time ever. Who? Grandma came to live in the White House. Very African. Very much African culture. So the point is that as diverse as we were ethnically, as we are removed from the continent of Africa, upon arrival in the Americas, we start to realize that we have to forge relationships with each other, regardless of these continental conflicts that we may have had on the ground prior to this catastrophe of being kidnapped, enslaved, transported and into the Americas and, involved in the subjects of perpetual slavery, chattel slavery. So that's a microcosm in the Americas, or many microcosms of how we sort of erase specific ethnicity. On those plantations, in my example, on those plantations, you must understand that people were of different ethnicity. Matter of fact, they preferred us to be of different ethnicity because we know for a fact historically that in the case of the Stono Rebellion, you had too many African slaves from the region now known as Angola. And it allowed for the people to communicate and forge alliances and start a well-known or maybe not so well-known insurrection in 1739, even before the Haitian Revolution. And they began their march to what was still a Spanish territory called Florida. And so that came directly from being familiar with each other ethnically, not necessarily being ethnically homogeneous, but being ethnically familiar. So any of you who are familiar with like the Senegambia region, you have the case where, you know, people in the Senegambian region may not all ethnically be Wolof, but the people in the Senegambian region very likely majority do understand Wolof. Okay, and are familiar. So even the smaller ethnic groups will understand the language of the dominant group, right? Numerically dominant group, like the Wolof, right? So this is the case, you know, in South Carolina in 1739, the Stono Rebellion. But the point is that we have erased ethnicity and forged an actually new ethnicity in the diaspora, specifically the United States and in other places, right? What people would refer to as their ethnicity in like a Jamaica. Sorry about that. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, folks. I was having a little bit of a cat mutiny going on. Anyway, so, you know, what is happening for us is that we're forging relationships even in those periods. So some people ethnically who ended up on the islands in the Caribbean, today you will see them asserting their what they would call their nationality as their ethnicity. In the United States, essentially we assert ethnicity. That's what you would consider African American, right? But you know, Jamaican and Trinidadian and, you know, Bayesian and Cuban and all of those are national identities, but they become ethnicity. They become their own ethnic groups of their own that are rooted in continental Africans, that are born out of a number of continental African ethnic groups. I'm saying all of that to say that in the present, with our present condition, we still have a common problem. And how we will come to resolve that problem, common problem, is to unify and essentially, I'm not saying erase your ethnicity or identity, but put it aside for our collective struggle, right? It's said about the diaspora, out of many comes one, right? And so the fact that we have, in spite of our situation, the fact that we have this concept of being African, right? Shakan Tajab, I will share him later on in the semester in the seminar. He talks about the cultural unity of Black Africa. Okay, all the things we do have in common, right? Aside from white supremacy and culture being a feature of our oppression, he talks about our culture as a force of unity, right? Meaning the common thread running through most African cultures. I'll give you a perfect example. It's without dispute, for the most part, whether you're on the continent or in the Americas, most African people don't believe in something like suicide, right? And we don't just know this because of what is said. We know this because of what has been practiced through our 400 or 500 year tragedy of being invaded, colonized, and all of that. You see very few incidents of full out or mass suicide. This is a act that you probably could say across the board is something that African people have a cultural taboo about. Now, I'm not saying it never happened. You have Igbo landing in South Carolina. You have incidents off the coast of Ghana where there's a group suicide once they realize they're going to be put in the bottom of a ship and taken Lord knows where. But our history is not littered with incidents of mass suicide. Why? Because this is a cultural taboo. Okay. So there are instances like that where we have brought our culture here with us upon arrival and for the purpose of surviving. And it connects us back to our, family on the continent. So we've always had common interests as far as that is concerned in the last 400 to 500 years. We have a common detractor and system that decreases all of our life chances. And all of these people in this chapter understand that particular point, okay? The Garveys, the Du Boises, the Booker T. Washingtons, and all the many others. Let me just, because I want to call their names because you should hear their names for future reference. We give a lot of light to the Garveys. We give a lot of light to, Du Bois, but we don't give a lot of light to all the others that I mentioned here who made great contribution to early Pan-Africanism as it is emerging and budding in the world. So Pan-Africanists amongst the African population in the Caribbean included the initiator of the first Pan-African Conference, Henry Sylvester Williams of Trinidad, Marcus Garvey's mentor, J. Robert Love, and Dr. J. Albert Thorne from Barbados. But decades prior to their emergence, the Haitian Revolution occurred and bolstered Pan-African consciousness in the diaspora as well. Haiti would produce Benito Sylvain and Antonio Furman, both who met Booker T. Washington in 1897 and attended the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. Out of Haiti came a wing of Pan-Africanists who created literary discourse on diasporic philosophies on Africa. The African population in Haiti produced Jean Prince Mars and Louise Joseph, who repeatedly explained that Haiti was the embodiment of the irresistible force of a united Africa. Why would he say that? Because Haiti would be sort of that microcosm where all of the diaspora is ethnically diverse as we come from the continent into the diaspora against our will. But if you were to take the island of Hispaniola, present day Haiti, you have Africans from all over the African continent who are brought there to be in bondage. And so the Haitian Revolution becomes just that, fighting off the cloak of colonialism and slavery and coming together in spite of people's probably really awareness of it's still ethnic diversity, because talking about 1804 when the Haitian Revolution takes place. And yes, it's only 1 year prior to the end of the transatlantic slave trade, meaning after 1804, the United States, after 1805, the United States makes it legal to bring people from the continent of Africa. But the trade is still going on to the Caribbean and places like that. So you're still having an active trade in human beings. And, there's not while it's very sophisticated slavery, the records are very sophisticated. This is why they could never lie and say, no reparations because the records are very sophisticated. But I mean, they may say no reparations. I can imagine that, but they can't say it's because the records aren't sophisticated. No, the records are, I know that as a historian, the records are very sophisticated. That being said, Haiti would have just as much ethnic African diversity as, just as much ethnic African diversity as anywhere on the continent, right? So the unification of Haiti is why he's saying, you know, that out of Haiti came a wing of Pan-Africanists who created a literary discourse on diaspora for African philosophies. The African population in Haiti produced Jean Prince Mars and Louise Joseph, who repeatedly explained that Haiti was the embodiment of the irresistible force of a united Africa. And prior to this catastrophe, this what we could call a Holocaust of African people, this term that we're using now, even Pan-Africanism, was not something we could collectively use. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's worse. We would have loved to not have the Holocaust, the tragedy, the ma'afa of the transatlantic slave trade. However, it did happen. And one of the things that we got out of it is that we can use this term African to unite us all, both on the continent and in the diaspora. And it doesn't mean we're negating our ethnic identities, but it means that we have a unified identity that allows us to organize and effectively challenge white supremacy and culture and the institution of slavery as it existed, an institution of colonialism, and even address neocolonialism. Because really, to be quite frank with you, neocolonialist figures, which many are heads of state, don't really want to overwhelmingly identify with the masses of African people. That's just the point about neocolonialism, right? A Black face, but serving the interest of Europeans and white supremacy, right? So, so out of this, you know, this becomes this concept of a united Africa, a united African people. And then you see that go further and further. So Pan-Africanism had a dialectical characteristic to it, which allowed historic events like the Haitian Revolution to produce a response and rise in consciousness amongst African people internationally. Similarly, in 1896, the Ethiopian victory over Italian imperialist forces in the Battle of Ottawa also bolstered the connection between diasporic Africans and those on the continent. So we're having a series of struggles, right, where we are affirming our unity and our united rejection of domination in the form of colonialism, in the form of slavery, you know, so on and so forth. So an important chapter, because you should at least know, come out of this course, this seminar, knowing how we come together. This is what is remarkable, okay? And nobody talks about this because they're not. The curriculum that you consume is largely from the perspective of, oh, you all were oppressed, blah, 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 and you know, white folks are generous, or some Europeans are generous to stop oppressing you. But no, there's a very different story. I taught a course called Comparative Slavery, and the person who wrote the course, you know, were very different in consciousness. The way she wrote the course was to say, you know, oh, let's compare the forms of oppression that were visited upon us throughout America and the Caribbean and Central and South America. Let's look at how slavery played out. When I came to teach the course, I revised the course and I said, absolutely not. We will not simply or exclusively study how Europeans put their foot on our necks. You know, oh, this one put his foot on your neck and your back. This one only put his foot on your neck and your head. This one put his foot on your head, your neck, and your behind. I wasn't going to do that. I said, what this course will include is how we got free, how we defeated them, how we destroyed their institution of slavery that would have given them profits perpetually. We destroyed it. We destroyed it everywhere we were, right? And we didn't have a conference because we were enslaved. How did we do that, right? How did we do that everywhere we were? We got free. You must understand that people who have a franchise like slavery never intend to destroy it. It ensures perpetual wealth, right? So everywhere we are in the Americas, we got free. In the United States, in Haiti, the first really, right? In Cuba, in, Jamaica, in, various countries, in Central America, in South America, okay? They're late. They were late. They were late. They got good numbers, but they're late. However, it happened, right? No one who gets super profits from people's labor gives that up without a fight, okay? Especially not in the capitalist world. And so what is notable about us is that in Kwame Ture hit on this. He said, the characteristic of African people is spontaneous mass, revolutions, mass response to the conditions. However, what we've got to do is master having organized response to our oppression. And that's where Pan-Africanism comes in. And we have this mass character already, okay? And you can see it in just what I'm saying. Everywhere we are, at some point or another, we have struggled against slavery. And then on the continent, we have struggled against colonialism. 1962, 1963, 17 African nations will take their countries back from imperialists. If it were any other continent, any other group of people, everyone would still be studying it. Everyone would still be studying it. How in 2 years, 17 nations throw off the cloak of colonialism. Okay? It's a wonderful phenomenon, right? And in the United States, after 250 years of chattel slavery, how people throw off the cloak of slavery and in the institution of slavery after the peasant class of Europe is able to profit from it for 250 years. How we brought a 250-year-old institution to its knees and to an end. That was not part of the plan anywhere we were, okay? So this tells you about our desire, our human desire to have whatever human being has a right to, which is freedom and dignity. And we understood that and we knew that. So I go through that and I give you the foundation. I sort of recall what Kwame Ture talks about, right, in print, the Pan-African Conference, the Pan-African Congresses. Then I get into Du Bois in Washington. And I sort of dispel some myths towards the end of the chapter because there are these myths about, Du Bois, Washington, this conflict they have. I give you enough to know to share with you that that's not quite true. What you heard, I'll talk about it on another occasion. I don't want to get detracted or distracted by that because our study is on Pan-Africanism. But in this chapter, you also get a working definition of Pan-Africanism, and it is unification for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. The unification of African people for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. And as you see all the different proponents of Pan-Africanism, you will see how they all believe in that core bare bones aspect of Pan-Africanism, but they have methods, they have their own methods and strategies and tactics for getting there, right? So they have their own remedy to eradicating the oppression and exploitation. One final thought I want to leave you with is just the concept of understanding that Pan-Africanism is not simply us coming together. It is coming together to address our condition globally, to do something about our condition. So no offense to any of you, when you go to church, just because everybody's Black, that's not Pan-Africanism. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you go to the supermarket, everybody's Black, just because you're all Black, that's not Pan-Africanism. When we come together in the way that we are right now to collectively work around addressing our condition, which you have to understand that our condition as we face it in terms of white supremacy and culture is deadly. There are things that we can see that we know will decrease our life chances, but then there's things that we can't see, the unseen, that will surely decrease our life chances. And what do I mean by decrease our life chances? Meaning kill us. Okay? Right? In the United States, there was a study done. Infants, newborn babies who have white doctors are 3 times more likely to die in the neonatal ward than white babies. Meaning, just by having a white doctor, your infant child just born is 3 times more likely to die because of the deadly indifference that's rooted in racism, right? And we're not talking about a card-carrying member of the Klan that's going to do it. We're talking about when those people say, I'm a good person, right? But has failed to understand what racism is, what racist pathology is, and yes, has a deep indifference to our humanity. The counter study was done once those numbers came out. And they said a Black child with a Black doctor in the neonatal ward, and you all understand neonatal ward means you're just born, right? The not preemie, but the neonatal ward where people have babies, right? The NICU unit. They said Black children who have infants who have a Black doctor are 3 times more likely to survive than Black children who have a white doctor. So they had to do the counter study once they saw. Now, like I said, the commentary is not about the card carrying, Klansman who's like a grand cyclops or anything. No, these are people who think that they're good and nice and doing great work and stuff like that, but harbor some very dangerous views about African and Black people. They can take more pain than others. I literally had an experience like that, right? And I'm sure the person probably thought that they certainly was at the dentist. I mean, they weren't going to kill me, but at the same time, they're so used to thinking a certain way, they readily espouse this view that Black people have a higher threshold for pain. Right? And there are a million studies that say that that's not true. Right? So there's what we're fighting that we see, right? Playing judge, jury, and executioner on the streets, right? In the US and in the Americas. But then there's the stuff that we don't see, right? People's thoughts and actions that play out and decrease our life chances. And then there's the stuff that we see and don't see on the continent of Africa, like the infiltration of the agricultural markets, where you can almost not get GMO products, where you almost not find anything that's not GMO on the continent of Africa, right? And forcing people to produce GMO products. And what does that do on the ground for the health of the people? it certainly decreases your life chances, right? So some of these things that play out are visible, some are not visible to the naked eye, but they're still in the works, and they all meet one objective, which is to ultimately decrease our life chances, right? And our right to a full, free, healthy life. That being said, I'm going to stop there and just tell you briefly what's up next. So up next is this very short chapter from the same book on Washington's role in a very important case, very concrete case. And this is going to give you a practical example of Pan-Africanism as it relates to challenging racist policies produced in the US aimed at African people internationally. And the case in the chapter is called the African Exclusion Measure. It is about a piece of legislation that originated in the Senate in 1915. It was produced in order to lock anyone of the Black or African race out of the United States forever. And it is one of the first times we see legislation produced that criminalizes just being Black and being African, okay? Because the piece of legislation not only wanted to exclude African and Black people from the United States forever from 1915 on, but it would deny African and Black people from immigrating into the United States on the basis that they were undesirables and criminals. So they put being African and being Black in the same category as being undesirable and criminals. Okay, so we know this is factual. I put the case together. It's corroborated with the congressional record in the United States. But I give you, the details of the case and how this measure was defeated. This is one of the reasons why I could, write the book and say Washington was a Pan-Africanist, because he was the person who challenged, debunked, and got this piece of racist legislation thrown out forever, okay? Many people don't know that, and it is a concrete example. We can weigh and measure. I can list all the people that would come to the United States after the defeat of this legislation. Now, one disclaimer, I am not saying that the measure of Pan-Africanism is to be able to come to the United States. I'm always focused on us. What this says is that an African person, Booker T. Washington, who had survived enslavement in the United States, dared to challenge the United States in their attempt to enact racist policies towards African people outside of the United States. Okay, and he challenges them and wins. This policy is directed at the African continent, the Caribbean, Central and South America, and its Black and African inhabitants of those parts of the world. What this creates for us is a model for how to challenge your own racist government. You get what I'm saying, right? So it's not about coming to the United States per se, right? Although Washington is clear, he is fighting this for his own reasons as well. One, he is coming to the defense of African and Black people internationally and saying this is racist, and he sees that it as an affront to us internally in the United States, because he sees us as one people, a swirling, family tree. You get what I'm saying? A massive family tree from the continent to the diaspora. We are African children of the African continent scattered abroad. And that's how he refers to African people. I think in the chapter that you all read, it starts out with a quote that gives you an understanding of how he thinks about this, right? He says, all the scattered African peoples in the world, and then he highlights, from Africa, Jamaica, Haiti, and the United States. But there is, however, a tie which binds few white men, a tie which few white men can understand. So let me start that over. I want you to be I don't want to be misunderstood. There is, however, a tie which few white men can understand, which binds the American Negro to the African Negro, which unites the Black man of Brazil and the Black man of Liberia, which is constantly drawing into closer relations all the scattered African peoples, whether they are in the old world or the new. See that? I have rarely met in America anyone of my race who did not, in one way or another, show a deep interest in everything connected with Africa. The millions of Negroes in America are almost as much interested, for example, in the future of Liberia and Abyssinia as they are in their own country. There is always a peculiar and scarcely definable bond that binds one Black man to another Black man, whether in Africa, Jamaica, Haiti, or the United States. Right? So he's talking about, you know, we have a relationship, right? And we are being drawn closer together, right? Into closer relations, all the scattered African peoples, right? So he's recognizing, so he is seeking to connect, to protect the interest of all of us scattered African people in the old world or in the new. And when he challenges this measure, that is precisely what he's doing. Now, caveat, just a side note, you know, footnote, is that Washington sees Tuskegee as a hub, a place, a center to educate African people and educate them on a sustainable system that can be exported to the African world, right? So various methods of sustainability, consuming what one produces. I saw somebody write that earlier. Yes, that's his whole philosophy, independence through industry. The institution Tuskegee is one of the ways he does that. He always has a steady flow of students coming from the continent of Africa, beginning in 1893. He seeks to protect that, but there has always, even before 1893, been a steady flow of students from the Caribbean, Central and South America, okay? In the next chapter, which I don't cover in this course, I share a little bit of that, but since, you know, I'm having this conversation with you all, I will give you some visual where you get a chance to see the international students at Tuskegee. So he is not going to allow, and yes, he understands that for African people from elsewhere to come into the United States and be educated is beneficial to them. And he's hoping that they would take that back to those locales and enrich their own communities of origin. Okay, so he is not willing to stop this very focused program that he has going on as that's concerned, and he is not going to allow the United States government and its racist policy and its racist politicians to destroy those relationships, destroy what we have going on in terms of a dialectical relationship, sharing of information and resources and strategies and tactics to address our condition. Okay. But I'll get more to come. You'll get the case. The case is short, so it's nice and short and sweet reading this week, and not as long as this previous chapter. And you know, that'll be up in the group by Monday. Okay, so let me look and see if I see some comments. I'm gonna make some comments really quickly. Let's see. Okay. I guess that was Fanana Okua. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm glad you guys were following. The way Dr. Hayes said this topic, she makes you feel good. I'm glad. Amazing Grace. Yes. You're welcome. You said, thanks for bringing back the feeling. Let me see, what was that? English, Nelson, thank you. Okay. Yes, African Unity Reincarnation. Hello from Zimbabwe, Monica. . Yes, being landless is, yeah, it's right, because to have land means, you can control most aspects of life, where you live, how you eat, right? Um, thank you, Felizardo. Right. Kwame Nareri, exactly, and Kwame Nkrumah. And as we'll see, this case you're going to read with the African exclusion measure, you'll see that, had this passed and Washington failed to defeat it, people like Nkrumah would not have come to the United States, received the education he did. But he got the education in the institutions, but he also got a different kind of education by coalescing, having dialectical relationships with Africans in the United States, and he being African from the continent. It sort of politicized him. It sort of radicalized him. And, yes, there's much documentation about this dialectical relationship, how many imperialist nations administrators wanted to interrupt our relationships because they felt like us coalescing, right, like in the way we are doing right now, would radicalize African people around the world, right? And in many instances it does. I mean, and people like Nkrumah go back to the continent of Africa. And what does he do? He knows that there has to be, independence, and he doesn't settle on that. He says that the independence of Ghana has to be linked to the total liberation of the African continent. Okay, hello from Trinidad and Tobago, Tan Charles. Welcome. So yeah, so hopefully you all got to all the important stuff in the chapter we just read. If not, make sure you do. Chapter 2, the second chapter we're going to read, thank you very much, Ernest Adu, is the case I'm just presenting to you, discussing with you, so you will see it in print. Thank you very much. The case I just mentioned, the African exclusion measure, is what you'll be reading this week. And it's very interesting. It's very short. It's very sweet. But it's very potent, the case. It is the example you can cite when people say, well, what is Pan-Africanism? Pan-Africanism hasn't done anything. This is a concrete historical policy case where the obvious benefits are in the people who come to the United States afterwards, but not even that. The benefit is that we could relate and engage each other physically after that, because it did not pass, right? So in other words, this piece of legislation, as much as it was about keeping African people out of the United States, it also stops us from coming together in the United States, right? So meaning not within the United States, but African people from other places coming together with Africans within the United States. But this is also a model. When the French want to write some racist policy about African migrants coming into France, this is a model. When the Italians want to write some racist policies about how to keep African people out of Italy, or the British, or any of them, this is a model for how to challenge them legislatively and politically, right? How to organize and execute that. Okay. All right, folks. I'm always over 12:03. I should have ended 15 minutes, no more than that, 15 plus minutes ago. And but listen, I love sharing and teaching, and just hopefully raising all ships in terms of our consciousness and what we have to do and facilitating that. So you are now armed with information that sort of allows you to know that the work you're doing with I Love Black People is in the tradition. We've been doing this for a long time now, right? Not I Love Black people, but African people. You're in the tradition. We are in a tradition. That's why you go back to the history 1900 of Pan-Africanism. So you know that this is not, you're not individually doing this alone. You are on the backs of your ancestors. We have a long tradition of doing this. We have a long tradition of coming together and protecting ourselves. Okay, that's what unity is about. You know, a lot of people think that our job is to be fighting white people. Our job is not to fight white people. Our job is to come together in a way, in a formation that protects us. Okay. And that in and of itself is a task, right? Because they've sowed so many seeds of division amongst us. Okay. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all for your comments and questions. Thank you very much, Amazing Grace. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it too. All right. So I look forward to I really look forward to your comments on this particular case as you get the details of it, because it is something I think that we all should know, right? And on another occasion, I'll talk to you about the politics behind this book and why it was produced the way it was, because I truly believe that this should be common knowledge for our people. We should all be armed with this. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I am Because We Are. Stay safe. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Wright, for the wonderful lecture. Yes,
thank you.
Because we are.
I am Because We Are. Peace.
Yes, thank you for every member that stayed on the call. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I am Because We Are.